Hey everybody, your Friendly Math Tutor here with episode 6 of our SAT mini course. Each episode we're going to dissect a different strategy for you to use on your upcoming SAT. Alright, so let's take a look at the closer problem from episode 5. This one, episode 5, just to recap, we went over linear systems of equations and several different ways to look at those problems. This one is from College Board Practice Test 9, Section 4, number 36. 3/4 x minus 1/2 y equals 12, and ax minus by equals 9. The system of equations above has no solutions. If a and b are constants, what is the value of a over b? So notice this one is the type where they talk about there having no solutions. When there are no solutions, that means if we were to graph this, we would end up with two lines that are parallel to each other. Therefore, they would never intersect and there would be no solutions. So in order for them to be parallel to each other, they have to have the same slope. So this one, actually, there is no way to do the school way, because the school way would be to try to use elimination and to match these up. But we don't know what to multiply by because we have no idea what a is to get to 3/4 or b is to get to 1/2. And we can't match up the 9 and the 12 because if there's no solutions, they actually need to be different. So we would have no idea what to multiply by. So this is a case where looking at it, your Friendly Math Tutor way, which is from the perspective of the slope, is really the only way to do this problem. So let's again think about the slope of this first line. We talked about when it was ax plus by equals c, we said that the slope was equal to negative a over b, which is, you just imagine you're moving this ax to this side, which is where the negative a comes from, and you're dividing by b, which is where the b comes from, and that fraction will be our slope. We want to do that to save time, and this allows this method to be much more quick, or done much more quickly than the school way. So if we look at the first equation, the slope is negative a, so that's negative 3 over 4, divided by b, which is negative 1/2. That needs to equal the slope of the other equation, which is negative a over, now this b is negative, so it's negative b. Well, that works out quite nicely because these two negatives make a positive, these two negatives make a positive. So essentially, they just want the value of a over b. We already have a over b, so we just have to simplify the left side. Well, all this is a fraction, so 3/4, divided by another fraction, so that's like multiplying by the reciprocal of that fraction. And then I can simplify pretty easily. 2 goes into itself once, and 2 goes into 4 twice, so 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 1 is 2, and our answer is 3 over 2. That is the value of a over b. So you can see that looking at it from the perspective of slope makes the problem really easy. It's a huge time saver if you're able to remember what the slope is when we go from standard form without having to do all the rearranging. That'll save you some time. And as you can see in this type of problem, the way the question was asked, there really was no way to do the school way. So these strategies are extremely important, not only for time savers, but some problems, it's really the only way that you're going to be able to do it. All right, on to the next one. All right, now on to today's topic of frequency tables, which are also referred to as histograms. So basically, a table is, as we can see in our opener example, we have a table with some columns and a whole bunch of numbers. You could also, a histogram is the same information, but it's in what would look more like a bar graph. But what they are is frequency. The word frequency just is how often something happens. So they're going to just all describe the number of times that each thing occurs in a problem. And what we're going to do is, there's really we don't have to talk about when to use these. You're going to know when to use them when you see a frequency table or a histogram. And it'll usually be mentioned in the problem, so they're pretty easy to spot. Today's lesson is more about two different shortcuts that we're going to use to figure these problems out. One is going to be used to find the arithmetic mean, and one is going to be used to find the median. So we will talk about all of that throughout the lesson. There is, again, not much of an introduction on when or when not to use these strategies. Basically, use this strategy when you are asked for the mean or the median of a histogram or frequency table, and don't use this strategy on any other type of problem, all right? But it's pretty specific, but honestly, it seems like going back through all the practice tests that the College Board put out, there seemed to be at least one or two or possibly three on all the practice tests. So this could be one of those problems that if you learn, if you understand that your Friendly Math Tutor way, this is going to be a really big time saver, and again, to bank that time for another problem that this strategy or these strategies that we're learning about may not necessarily work. All right, so let's move on to our opener problem. This is College Board Practice Test 6, Section 4, number 22. It gives us this frequency table over here. It says in 2008, there were 21 states with 10 or more electoral votes as shown in the table. What was the median number of electoral votes for the 21 states? So the first two problems that we're going to look at today have to do with median. Then we'll take a look at two problems with arithmetic mean. Then we'll close it up with another median one, because I feel like that's even more important and even more of a time saver. So this frequency table, what this means is that the number of states that had 10 electoral votes was 4. And the number of states, for instance, that had 31 electoral votes, there was only one state that had for that instance. So it's just a way to condense the information. So let's take a look first at the school way. And the school way would be to list all of these out. So what this would mean is that there are 4 states that had 10 votes. So I would put 4 10s. And then there will be 4 11s, and 1 12, and 1 13, and 2 15s, 3 15s, and then a 17, a 20, 2 21s, whoops, a 27, a 31, a 34, and a 55. All right, so that is our data laid out in a different way, which you were more familiar with when you do median in school. So I wouldn't suggest ever listing it out this way, but I think it's really important that I do this now to give you an idea of what actually is happening, so that when we learn the shortcut will make more sense. So the median is just the middle number. And for this, there are 21 states. So the median is the number in the middle with the same amount of numbers on both sides. When there's an odd number of numbers, there is a definitive middle. So in this case, it would be the 11th one, which would allow there to be 10 numbers before and 10 numbers after. But let's say you didn't even feel like doing all that math. What they usually teach in school, which is a really good way, and you probably did this way back in like 7th grade, it's called the cross-out method. So what you do is you just cross out the first number and the last number, and you just keep doing that. And you just keep going, this one and 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 this one. And you just keep doing this until we're going to be left with one number. And that number is our median. Pretty simple, right? But imagine that our frequency table had more than 21, which even this is way too much writing for you to do on one problem. But honestly, if you had to do it, you would do it that way. But imagine this was like 85 terms or 400, right? that would be impossible to write all that out, so there has to be a quicker way. So now on to your Friendly Math Tutor way, which is a way that we can shorten this process extremely quickly. So let's again talk about how you figure out which term is the median. So again, we had 21 terms in total, because in this case there are 21 states. And terms, I just mean like numbers in this list. All right, so we have a list of numbers. We usually call those terms separated by commas. And the 11th one would be the middle. Well, the best way to find that would be to simply just take 21 and divide by 2. You get 10.5, and then you just round that up to 11, so the 11th term is the middle. So we just got to figure out which number's in the 11th term. So all you really need to do is start here. The first 4 terms are 10. The next 4 terms are 11, so that's a total of 8 terms. The 9th term, the next one, is a 12. The 10th term is a 13. And the next 3 terms are 15s. So that means that the 10th term is a 13 and the next 3 terms are all 15s, then the 11th term must be a 15. So really, the real shortcut here is to just take the number of however many terms we have and divide by 2. We'll see a case where if this were if this divided evenly. When it's a 0.5, just round it up to 11. And then you're just simply going to add the frequencies from the beginning. And the category that puts you over 11 is the answer. So again, we just do this math real quick. So we get 11 and we go, all right, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 1 is 9, 9 plus 1 is 10, 10 plus 3 is 13. That put me over 11. So the median must be in that category, which this case was 15. All right, so it's really simple. It does not matter if there were, 400 terms. We would just divide by 2 and get 200, and we would just add from the beginning. And the number, as soon as that number, the one that puts us over the middle number that we're looking for, is going to be the median. All right, so let's check this out on another problem. All right, now on to problem number 2. So this one is College Board Practice Test 9, Section 4, number 34. Says, based on the graph above, in how many of the games played did the soccer team score goals equal to the median number of goals for the 29 games? So this one is in the form of a histogram. And basically what this is saying is that they scored 1 goal in 8 of their games, 2 goals in 9 of their games, 3 goals in 6 of their games, and so on. So that's how this information is laid out. All we really care about is the fact that there are 29 games, and if we listed all 29 games out, we want to think about what the middle number would be. Well, an easy way to do that is to just take 29 and divide by 2. That gives us 14.5, and then we round up to 15. So that means if we put these in order, all 29 games, in order of number of goals scored, the 15th game would be the one that's in the middle, which should make sense because there'd be 14 before and 14 after, and that would make a total of 29. So all we care about is which number of goals, right? So basically, if we listed these out, we'd have a bunch of 1s, a bunch of 2s, a bunch of 3s, some 4s, some 5s, and a 7. And we just want to know which group of goals, like the 1s, the 2s, the 3s, if we think of those as groups, which group is going to put us over 15. So I just start with the 8, so the first 8 are 1s. I add the next 9, which are all 2s, so 8 plus 9 is 17, and 17 puts us above 15. So that means that the median is equal to 2. So if you can imagine a bunch of 1s and a bunch of 2s, the 15th number is going to be a 2, simply because 8 plus 9 puts us over 15. So our median is 2, but then we've got to be really careful. We can't just put 2 as our answer, because it says in how many of the games played did the soccer team score goals equal to the median. So what they're really asking is, for how many games did they score 2 goals? And that simply is 9. So 9 would be answering the question. They just added this extra level that a lot of times happens, where when you solve the problem, the first number you get mathematically is not your answer. You got to make sure that you read the question to know exactly what it is that we're doing. So especially in a grid-in problem like this, like we don't have answer choices to allow us to skip the reading, I guess, because I've told you before how you can skip, say for literal equations, right? You're able to skip the paragraph because you look at all the answer choices and they tell you what variable to solve for. So I don't need words to tell me that, I can just visually say it. But here there is nothing else, and we really have to read this paragraph to understand exactly what it's saying, and that there's this added level of not only just finding the median, but figuring out how many games they scored the median. All right, so let's move on. All right, now on to our third problem. So this one is College Board Practice Test 1, Section 4, number 12. Here they give us another histogram. It's the number of seeds in each of 12 apples. So at the bottom we have the number of seeds, and the sides the number of apples. So this first bar really means that there are 2 apples that each had 3 seeds. The second bar means there were 4 apples that each had 5 seeds, and so on. It says, based on the histogram above, which of the following is the closest to the average, or the arithmetic mean, number of seeds per apple? So if we just kind of do a quick refresher of what average is, or arithmetic mean, it's just simply when you add up all of the values and you divide by however many values there are, and it gives you the average. All right, it's a pretty basic thing that we do all the time. It's just when it's given in this way, it seems a little bit more challenging. So let's do it the school way first, and kind of, again, not that you would want to do it this way. This really isn't a case of where you would do the school way sometimes and your Friendly Math Tutor way other times. The Friendly Math Tutor way is just a shortcut that's like always going to be faster. But it's important for you to understand the shortcut kind of through the lens of seeing what it would look like if we did it the long way, and then we'll be able to come up with a quicker way. And then on the next problem, we'll just do it the quick way. So just to get a visual of this, and sometimes this can actually help, and since there's only 12 apples, what I'm about to do is actually not a big deal if this helps you write it out visually. The problem is, if they did a problem like this where there were like 87 apples, well then writing it out would just be impossible, and you would have to understand the Your Friendly Math Tutor way. But I'm all about getting a nice visual of this. So this means that there are 2 apples with 3 seeds. So there are 2 3s. And then there are 4 apples, each with 5 seeds. So I have 4 5s. And then there's 1 apple with 6, and then 2 with 7, and then 3 with 9. So running out of room a little bit here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there are 12 in total. So what we would have to do is just add these up and divide by 12. Well, here's where the shortcut comes in. I don't really have to add these up individually. It is section 4, so you'll have a calculator, but still, even in the calculator, there's a quicker way to do this. Obviously, we know 3 plus 3 is 6, and in this case, it's not much of a shortcut. But instead of doing 3 plus 3, we could just do 2 times 3. And then instead of doing 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, we could do 4 times 5. And again, the shortcut here, obviously there's only 1 6. The shortcut here, I'm sure you could do 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, but just imagine in another problem there were like 15 5s you wouldn't want to do 5 plus 5 plus 5 15 times in the calculator, just keep hitting back and forth. You would simply just do 15 times 5. So there's 1 6, there are 2 7s, so I'll do 2 times 7, finally 3 times 9. All right. So now what we would do is we would want to just add all of these up. So I get 6 plus 20 is 26, plus 6 is 32, plus 14 is 46, plus 27 is 73. So I get 73 divided by 12. And that is about a little more than 6. You would obviously have a calculator, so you could just do that at home. And but I know that 72 divided by 12 is 6, so this is a little bit more than 6. So it's like 6 point, something. It doesn't really matter because it's so close, I know it's going to round down, and so C6 must be the closest to it. All right. So now to your Friendly Math Tutor way, which I kind of did here anyway. I kind of gave you a little hint at what the shortcut is. But for your Friendly Math Tutor way, we are going to do this problem without listing the numbers. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to figure out how many total there are. In this problem, they tell us there's 12. They quite often do tell you, but if we didn't know that, we could just add up all the frequencies. So 2 plus 4 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 would give us a total of 12. So right away I know that that's what I'm dividing by. And simply, I just did this, but instead of listing them out that way, all you can do is multiply the number of seeds by the number of apples for each of these, all right? And what might be a good way for you to do this is to just look at, if I multiply 3 by 2, that's kind of like finding the area of this rectangle. So you could really just think of it as, let me just find the total area of all these rectangles and then divide that by, whoops, this is supposed to be 12. Divide that by 12 and that'll be the answer. So I could just look at all of these as the area of this is 3 by 2, which is 6. The area of this is 5 by 4, which is 20. The area of this is 6 by 1, which is 6. The area of this is 7 times 2 is 14, and the area of this last one is 9 times 3, which is 27. And if I add all those numbers together, I once again should get 73, which is approximately 6. All right. So just to recap, the reason I'm finding the area is because if there are there are 2 apples that have 3 seeds, you would just multiply. And multiplying, it's like you're looking at, this is like the width of the rectangle and this is the length. That's why the area is associated with that. So if you can just think of, oh, if I see a histogram, I'm just going to find the areas, add them up, divide by however many there are, and that's going to be the average, or the arithmetic mean. All right, let's take a look at another one of these. All right, now on to the 4th problem. This one is College Board Practice Test 7, Section 4, number 37. All right, 37, there's only 38 problems, so this must be what they consider one of the more difficult problems. They give us this huge chart, which at first I wouldn't even read it. I would go to in this case, the actual paragraph. When they give you this much data at one time, there's no way, based on one problem, that we could possibly use all of the data. So let's not really get bogged down by day 1 through day 3 in total. Let's see what we actually care about. So it says the same 20 contestants in each of the 3 days answered 5 questions in order to win a prize. Each contestant received 1 point for each correct answer. What is the mean score of the contestants on day 1? So I care about 3 things there. I care about that there's 20 contestants. So and I care about the mean. So I'm going to be dividing by the total. So I know right away I'm dividing by 20. And then the third thing is day 1. Well, I only care about day 1. This is a little bit different than the histogram, as this is a frequency table. With the histogram, we just thought about it as the area of the rectangles. Well, this one we're not, but we're still going to multiply. So on day 1, there were 2 people that scored a 5. So that's just 2 times 5 plus. And then there were 3 that scored a 4. Well, that's 3 times 4. And then there were 4 that scored a 3. And then I'm going to run out of room. So let's do the little better job here. So we've got 2 times 5 plus 3 times 4 plus 4 times 3 plus, now we're at, there are 6 people that got a 2, so that's 6 times 2. There are 2 people that got a 1, so that's 2 times 1. And finally, there are 3 people that got a 0, so 3 times 0. And obviously, I'm just writing all this out. Other shortcuts are, since this is section 4, you could just put all this in the calculator the way it is and hit enter. You'd have to be very careful with parentheses, but stay tuned for later. I got a feeling that I'm going to be doing something with some graphing calculator tips. All right. So, or you could literally just be doing these in your head. So I know that this is 10 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 2 plus 0. All right, and then I get 10 plus 12 is 22 plus 12 is 34 plus 12 is 46, so I get 48 over 20. So that is 48 divided by 20. Again, you should have a calculator for this, but that should be 2 and 2.4. I hope that's correct. If it's correct, then you're going to be watching it now, and if that's incorrect, this will probably be in the outtakes. All right, so that does it for our 4th problem. Answer is 2.4. All right. All right, now to our closer problem. This is College Board Practice Test 8, Section 4, number 17. It says the ages of 20 students enrolled in a college class. Which of the following gives the correct order of the mean, median, and mode? Oh, and it gives us this frequency table with there's 6 18-year-olds, 5 19-year-olds, 4 20-year-olds, 2 21-year-olds, a 22-year-old, a 23-year-old, and a 30-year-old. And we need to put the order from least to greatest of the mode, median, and mean. We did not talk about mode, but the mode is just the number that shows up the most. That should be by far the easiest thing to find in this table. It is just the highest frequency. All right, so then what you can do is just think about what's the quickest way to find the median, what's the quickest way to find the mean, and then put them in order. So that's how you're going to proceed with this week's closer problem. All right. All right, now to today's takeaways. So when we're talking about frequency tables or histograms, a frequency table is going to be a table. It's going to have the word frequency or the number of times that something, a bunch of different things are going to happen. Histogram is going to be the same information, but it's going to be laid out in what looks like a bar graph. All right. So if you have to find the median, the idea is you just find the middle number, you just take the total number of numbers and you just divide by 2, and that should, and you round up. If it's an even number, for instance, like 200, half of 200 would be 100. Technically, the median would be between the 100 and 101st term, but you really don't even need to be concerned about that. If the middle number is 100 or whatever the middle number is, you just start with the first one and you just start adding up the frequencies. The one that puts you over the middle number, all right, is going to be where the median is. It'll be the one that corresponds to that is the median, all right? For mean, you are just multiplying whatever it is by, like whatever, like in this case, the age, you're just multiplying by the frequency. You do that for each one. If it's a histogram, you can kind of picture it as the area of that bar. If it's a frequency table, you're just multiplying the numbers straight across or up and down, depending on how it's laid out. You are adding those up and dividing by however many there are. If they don't tell you how many there are, like they did in this case that there's 20, you can simply just add up the frequencies to figure out how many there are. So it's still mean the way it always has been, except you don't have to add them up individually. The shortcut is by doing the multiplying, all right? That's pretty much it. It's going to be pretty easy to spot these. You're going to see a big table with the word frequency in it, or you're going to see a bar graph. They're going to use the word histogram or frequency table. It only applies to those problems, but in section 4, there tends to be several of these types of questions. Section 4 is much more data, the data types of problems, all right? So you'll definitely see these, and if you can execute these shortcuts, again, it's all about doing these really quickly, and then you have a lot of extra time on the more complicated problems that don't involve shortcuts, all right? So that is it for episode 6. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that we're finding this useful. We've got a couple more episodes, and as I hinted earlier, we might have a couple bonus episodes. You got about a little over a week until your SAT, so let's keep practicing. Let's go back and look at the other videos and keep applying these strategies and know when to apply them and when not to apply them. Please like this, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram, connect on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. And until the next episode, your friendly math tutor is out. Is it recording? No. Or, never mind. Never mind. Come on.